So, Eugenia, this is such a pleasure for me to interview you. Obviously, we've known each other for many years. In fact, you were the person that inspired me to take this journey. So it's kind of deliciously appropriate that my first interview is with you. So I want to express my deep gratitude for all the work that you do and have done over the years. And yeah, we met like 10 years ago in Switzerland, and you were doing Presence of Breath your first weekend. And now you're kind of traveling all over the world doing seminars, doing weekends. But can I ask the first question, like pedal back in time and go to when you first met the breath? Because I know that you were a psychologist, you were working at university, I believe, at a university in the States. What happened? How did you meet Judy? And tell us the story.
Yes, so yeah, I'm also very touched that you invited me, and I didn't know I was the first one to be interviewed. So thank you so much for that honor. And I feel very grateful that I got to connect with you with the bread at that time and to see you now as a fully formed and magnificent trainer that you are. So it's so happy to be collaborating in this beautiful project. And just to be clear, I taught at a university in Mexico,
Ah,
and I was the head of research as well at the university. And so I will go back in time. This is an amazing moment that the bread actually found me because I think I was really, really needing that deep emotional healing. All through my life, I have been searching for that peace that will bring me back to myself, that will help me heal my deep wounds from childhood when I grew up with a lot of abuse and a lot of loss in my life. And I study psychology in a way to try to put myself back together. And I think psychology helped me with it, but it wasn't until the breath that I actually found my way back to me and to my heart. And it was at the time I had quit the university after working there for 8 years and quickly escalating to a really good position. I was so young. I was already head of research and the director of curriculum development over there. So when I quit, everybody was shocked. It's like, why is she quitting? She's here set up for a career. But I was just not in a joyful place. I was dealing with severe depression and I was a high functioning depressive, like really compensating with like work addiction, honestly. And that was all the fulfillment I had, just all the achievements that I was getting at work, but really no joy, no happiness in my life, and very, very tired internally. Even though I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing, I was very tired internally. So I quit my job and I made a huge change, moved back home to the city where I grew up, and that was healing by itself. But when I quit my job, I just send a prayer, like I just really, really say, please show me what is next for me. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I need. I just know this is no life and I am ready for the next step. And I think that was courageous, but also very strong in my heart. And, it just I don't know if it was courageous or cowardice. Like I cannot deal with life and I need to quit, or if it was like, okay, I know I'm ready for more. I don't know what was the motivation, but I really know the calling came from my heart. I was asking for guidance deeply because I didn't know anything else that could help me. So it was in the job that I got back home. My boss was a trainer of transformational breath, and we were sitting in the office one day without doing anything. And there was an offer, hey, do you want to breathe? Without any explanation. But me being me, I'm like, yes, I'll try it. So I had that session. And in the middle of that session, I just felt in my heart this was my calling. I experienced peace. I was just at ease. I was calm. I was joyful. And then I went home that night and I slept and I woke up in the morning, which for most people is normal. But for me, because I had chronic insomnia since I was a child and actually suffered from night terrors for most of my childhood and teenage years, my night terrors carried into my teenagers. And I will wake up about 15 times through the night. I had no memory of ever in my life sleeping through the night. And I woke up in the morning. So I opened my eyes and I go, what is this? What is this? Sleeping through the night. And that was a confirmation. So I just committed to it. And it was so amazing, all the changes that it brought into my life. But that's how the bread found me. Literally in my office, in my desk, it just said, hey, this is the answer you were looking for. And it truly was the answer that helped me heal those wounded parts of myself.
And I, in talking to other senior trainers, other people who are trained in the breath and have had some form of breakthrough or some form of understanding that on a deeper level that the breath can be very, very restorative and very healing. But it kind of, resonates with me, this idea that we all seem to be so dedicated to this breath work and to this technique. I mean, it just surprises me that, meeting different people from different backgrounds with different stories, everybody's kind of really passionate about it. And the people that we train with in France and that are coming up the ladder and becoming trainers and becoming senior trainers, again, we find this same dedication. What do you think? Why do you think we're so dedicated? What do you think really? Is it because we're personally inspired? What do you think's going on?
Mhm. Well, first of all, I think not everybody chooses the trainer path because it's very demanding, right? Many people come to the bread, they do the trainings, the personal training, for example, they receive a lot and they take it as a tool into their life and it stays with them, and it will continue to give gifts. And I think they love it in that way. But anybody who feels the calling to share the bread with others is really passionate about it. And you need to be passionate to follow this path because when you are working with the bread and you're helping, people connect with themselves and understand the wisdom that's inside of them with the breath. At the same time, you're choosing a path of personal growth and life is going to keep giving you challenges to grow, right? So as trainers, we're going to receive reflections from our participants, from the people we work with, and they're going to challenge us. So if you made it to the trainer level, that means that you are really willing to grow. But also every step that you take with the breath, if you take the personal seminar and you receive the gifts from it, you grow, you learn, you get empowered, but then you become a facilitator. There's challenges, but there's also bigger gifts, right? When you're working with people and you see the imperfection of the perfection of a session and you learn to witness it without judgment, without expecting a specific outcome, it teaches you how to see life in that light and it opens your view of life. So even though it's a deeper commitment, it also has bigger reward. And then when you start to become a trainer, and you start to work with people and witness their transformation over time. They came to you for a seminar. Now they're there as staff members in your seminar, and they're different. You see this transformation being consistent and sustainable over long periods of time, and you get inspired. So when you witness this, you're working hard, you're building your groups, you're creating your events, you're holding space for others, but you're also witnessing like magnificent transformations. So it's so nurturing for the soul to be witnessing these things. And I think that's what keeps us hooked. It's like it's so beautiful, even though it's hard work, it's so beautiful that we want to keep coming back for more. But I also think when we get in touch with our heart, with ourselves, we fall a little bit in love with life. And that's what the bread does. It shows us who we are, what our potential is, because it helps us integrate things from our past that are creating limiting thought patterns in our life. So when we integrate these thought patterns and we see the reality of life and the reality of us, we become empowered and we start to see with this new vision of who we are and our potential. And once you see that, you have to keep saying yes to the work, because it's nurturing, it's empowering, and it's magnificent.
And you just mentioned that you just come back from Kuwait with Judy, and you really do travel all around the world. So maybe you can give us some insight as to what do you see in terms of differences? Do you see the same thing happening in all countries across the world, or is there some countries which have a certain reticence or a certain filters before really enjoying the benefits of the breath?
Mhm. This is a great question. Thank you for asking it because, as I mentioned, I was head of research at my university, and I do have that researcher's mind. So when I fell in love with the bread, I was like, okay, this is awesome. I love it. But my mind had a lot of questions, you know? So through my first years of my career, I was a very objective observer of the bread for myself, my clients, and my groups. Like, what is happening to this group of people? What is happening to that culture when they breathe? And just really witnessing with a lot of questions. And I saw many things, you know. First of all, I saw people coming back year and year after year and just continuing to grow because sometimes you have very transformative experiences. And being a psychologist, there's a lot of um, trainings and exercises people do, but then they kind of regress to where they were before. So noticing the consistent progression of people's lives in the right direction was for me a confirmation of the results. And second, when you do research, there's two ways of proving something, right? One is you do a test and you have something really measurable that you can compare it to. This is this plus that equals that. Or you have a really large sample that is very diversified. And if that sample has the same results, then you know the results are valid. So for me, going around the countries, and at the time I was Judy's personal assistant, and we were traveling nonstop. We were home just a few days every month, and we were going from one country to the other. Just having that large sample and seeing the breath give the same level of emotional integration, clarity, and growth to people with so many different cultural backgrounds was when I really started to believe in the breath. I know it took me a few years, you know. I saw it for myself, but to be able to confidently say the bread works for everybody in every culture and is consistent, I needed the data. And those years gave me the data. And to this day, I have not seen a culture that does not respond well to the breath. And I have worked with many different groups of people with different cultural backgrounds, different life experiences, and have very positive results. However, there are different breathing patterns that are more permanent in certain countries, you
Mm.
know, and we see different emotional reactions that are generalized in some areas. Because of my history, for example, with abuse and sexual abuse, I did work a lot with people with abuse and, you know, severe PTSD. So I have a lot of information on that. And I had many groups that were um, because of my background, you know, just attracted to work with me because of that. So I had a lot of sampling of that. But I do see, for example, sometimes there's breathing patterns like more um, difficulty getting into different places of the body, or in some cultures, there's more vocal expression. For example, I find it very interesting that without, you know, saying everybody in Britain, but for example, some or large numbers of people in British countries in Britain, they like are more vocal in the sessions. They do more sound in the sessions. And I will think the Mexicans will be more vocal because we Mexicans are so loud and so vocally expressive. So I had to sit with that and I go, why are the Mexicans not toning loudly? And the people in the UK are toning so loudly. And I thought, oh, maybe because they don't get to do it so much. So now there's
Mm.
an
Mm.
overlap in the opportunity, you know? Mexicans scream a lot, so maybe we don't need to be so vocal in the sessions. And that's not always the case, but things like that, you know.
Mm.
And sometimes in some cultures, I have noticed a lot of women, for example, and that includes Mexico. We're not really in the lower belly breathing, you know, because this is the power center. So sometimes there's a little bit more of that feminine pattern of repression in some parts of the world. Mhm.
Of course, in November this year, there's going to be a 50-year celebration of transformational breath. And I was just thinking about that the other day and thinking, well, it's going to be a celebration of Judith Kravitz as well. It's not just the success of transformational breath in the world. And I thought, well, Jeannie's the person to ask about Judy. Maybe you can you can tell us a little bit about because you travel with Judith, you've worked with her for many years as her personal assistant. What could you tell us about the founder of Transformational Breath? She's been working for 50 years in Transformational Breath, but what would you say about her?
Yeah, so I've been working with her for almost 2 decades. I was doing the math the other day because she was there with me from the beginning, and then, as you say, living with her, traveling with her, and to this day, I'm in her house right now, actually, doing some work. And to me, this has been a very beautiful experience because you know how sometimes you know somebody in a course or like in a professional setting and you admire them and you think they're awesome, and then you meet them more closely and you go, they're not consistent or congruent. And when Judy invited me to be her personal assistant, it was like a dream come true for me, but you never know what to expect. So I work as an au pair when I was a student, and living in someone's house can be very demanding and uncomfortable sometimes. Like you feel a little disempowered. So when I was prepared for that, I was like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm coming. But when I got here, I just felt so welcome. And through all these years working with Judy, I can say that she did not disappoint. She's congruent, she's consistent, and she really, really practices what she teaches. And what I have really learned from her is that she's very human. She doesn't try to be something she's not, and she takes ownership of her emotions and her thoughts and really expresses them and is willing to listen and to negotiate when it's needed. Living, traveling with her, teaching with her, I have a very strong set mind sometimes as a curriculum coordinator of the foundation of what I want to do, and she has her own mindset. And sometimes our opinions are so different, and she's so willing to listen to my side and to come to the middle ground. And we're very complementary. And it will be so easy for her to just say, no, this is the way things are done. And that's the end of it. And I think that's why Transformational Breath has grown so successfully, because she's always open to feedback and dialogue. She might not agree with us at the beginning, but she always goes like, okay, I heard you, and comes back to that. So I'm very grateful for that. And the biggest lesson she has taught me is to actually take ownership of my mistakes and not try to be perfect, because growing up, that's what I felt I had to do. Mhm.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, being open to new ideas and other people's opinions, and I was asked the other day what makes transformational different from other breath work, and I was kind of tempted to say that that's one of the characteristics that I found in transformational breath is the openness, is the ability, Judy's ability to integrate other techniques, whether it be coaching, whether it be different approaches like Byron Katie or Michael Brown. How would you characterize transformational breath in terms of other breathwork techniques?
Mhm. So with the researcher mind, of course, I had to try it as much as I could, all the different techniques around there, just to see, am I in the right one? Is this really, really the best? I had to know. So whenever we go to the international breath conferences, they have workshops of different breathwork schools, and I go and I try all the ones that I can. And anywhere in the world, I try as many breathing techniques as I can. Because I like to learn. I have an inquisitive mind and I like to learn. And I think Transformational Breath is a very rounded school in the sense that it approaches every aspect of the human being in a very holistic way. We do focus our work on the physical because that's where the breath is happening. But at the same time, we work a lot with the mechanics and dynamics of the breath, really understanding what is happening with the body and how we can make it more efficient with the least amount of effort. And that is different from other breathwork schools because Many breathing techniques are just about a rhythm pattern or a specific flow without really looking at the restricted breathing patterns, what they mean, and how they could be improved. So sometimes I've had people who have done many years of breath work and they come to a transformational breath session and they're blown away because there's things they never touched on because they were really protected by the body and the unconscious mind. And also on the mental and emotional level, we really understand how emotional integration happens, so we can facilitate it very efficiently. Emotional integration is going to happen in any breathing practice, but when you have the understanding as a facilitator, you can help the breath actually work in the way that truly facilitates that effectively. And then, of course, we don't discard the spiritual aspect of the breath. Some
Mm.
breathing techniques are really focused on the physical development or just the emotional analysis and so on. And we focus on all three aspects of that and combine, I think that makes us very strong. Then I also think the fact that our technique is very structured. So we have guidelines, we have um, procedures and so on, but they don't discard the intuition. So you have 5 or 6 different ways where you can create a change in the breath, and then your intuition will tell you which one of those you should try first, and then gives you time to explore and play. This didn't work, I do something else. So it's not restrictive, but it's not completely loose, where the interpretation of the facilitator can create or not a space of safety and integration. So that's why I think the technique is so successful.
And of course, you were with us all, with Judy, for the first level 5 in France in November of last year, which
Yes.
obviously for us was such an extraordinary occasion because it was obviously the first level 5 and it was the first level
Mhm.
5 in France. So it was a new generation of
Yeah.
trainers going out into the world. And I
Mhm.
just wanted to ask your impressions. What did you see? Because there were 36 participants. What did you see or what did you feel? Because you've been doing level 5s for many, many years, so you've seen a lot of people go through the process.
Mhm.
What struck you with the level 5 in France?
Yeah. First of all, I'll say it was exciting for us too. Any new country holding a level 5, I know it's harboring a new growth in that area. So that's beautiful. And I have to say, 36 is the maximum number of participants we can have in level 5. So that you were maxed out in your level 5 because of the way we work in that training. And what I am seeing, not just only in France, but right now in the world, is the people that are showing up to level 5 are coming at a whole new level than before. Without disrespect to previous generations, I just think, the consciousness and awareness of the world and people is expanding. So the people that are being called to this work are really ready for the work. A lot of people used to come to level 5 for their personal growth, for empowerment, for expression, because level 5 has that. Our group leader training offers that just for the individual. But now people that are coming to the group leader training are ready to be group leaders. They are passionate about the work, they understand the work, and they're ready to take it into their communities wherever they are. So watch out, friends. This is happening for you. You have a beautiful batch of new facilitators, and you also had people from other countries that came to train with you. Very inquisitive minds, very loving hearts, very spiritual people, but very grounded in the practical, which is not always the case for people doing holistic work.
Mm,
It's a beautiful reflection of the work that you and Katarina have been doing in the country. Yeah.
thank you. Um, when you look at the state of the world today and the different pressures and I think challenges that a lot of people are going through, and then you maybe look towards the future of the breath and the perhaps the potential to help with some of those challenges. How do you see the future of transformational breath? How do you see the future of what we're doing?
I think with all the changes the world is going through, with so much political and economical instability in the world, I think the breath is more needed now than before. And I think it's reflected in the responses from people. When I started this work, I remember people being very intrigued by it in a non so positive way. You do what? And they pay you for it? Like very questioning the purpose of my job, especially after my previous job. They were like, "What? You quit that to do this?" And so I think that was the reflection of the consciousness and the world, it's like no understanding of it. But now, everywhere I go and wherever people ask me, in the coffee shop, in the plane, in the store, wherever I am, oh, you're doing what? Oh, tell me more about it. So there's an innate curiosity to breath right now in the world, especially after COVID. People really are curious about the physicality of breath, but also people understand the importance and the utility of the breath for emotional integration, for peace of mind, for spiritual awakening. So there's a positive response in the world. The world is hungry for the bread, and I know it's gone really mainstream now. People are curious about it, they're looking for it. And I think our school, especially with the level of professionalism that we offer, with the clear structure that we have, is the kind of school that is needed in the world right now. So I'm very happy that we have spent all these years preparing for this time, because I know breathwork is exploding in the world. There's breathing schools popping up everywhere because people really, really want to do breath.
Yeah, just to refer back to that, this idea of a lot of breathwork schools popping up left, right, and center, and obviously, we get compared with other breath schools. And one of the things is that we seem to be one of the toughest in terms of the most demanding breath school. I personally really like that, but what would you say about that?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're one of the toughest. There's some other schools that are also very demanding, but we are I think from the schools that are demanding, that are out there, we are the ones that have the clearest path. A lot of them is like, okay, you show up and you learn on the road, and let's see what comes out of it. And we don't know when you'll be ready. Yet you still have to commit for a long time to get certified. Our path is very clear, and you will follow the steps and you'll get there. What I feel is really important in our training is that every step of the certification process serves a purpose. One, for personal growth, and then for development of skills. And I think it's really beautiful and gentle in the way that we teach everything in a gradual way. During the training, people learn one skill and they practice it, another one and they practice it. So by the end of the training, they have a perfect toolkit for that level that they're in. And by the time they complete certification, they know without a shadow of a doubt that they're fully qualified. So they can go and set up a professional practice and do a good job that is not going to put them or other people in danger. Because people think breathwork is very simple, but it really is not. Um, a lot gets unlocked in the body and the mind when you're doing breathwork. And if you don't have the clarity of the training, it's not like like emotionally, you're not going to harm people, but you could not be able to bring somebody back from a deep emotional traumatic memory that surfaced during a session. And then what do you do? How do you complete that session? How do you send them home? In our school, they will have that knowledge. And also, there are many breathwork schools that don't work with all the physical or mental conditions because they don't have the safety guidelines. And we do that. We have the safety guidelines and the safety procedures so that we can work with any physical or medical condition, or emotional condition. So that way, you have the confidence, you have the support of your mentors and your trainers if you have a question about something, so that you can work with everybody. So I feel very grateful that we offer this level of professionalism, so that anybody that graduates from our school, they can confidently open a professional practice and know they're doing a good job and a safe job as well.
Yeah, and that word safe is such an important feature, I think,
Mm-hmm.
characteristic. What do you think are the key ingredients for creating safety, this sense of safety, which we really have to have from the word go, whether we're doing an individual session or whether we're doing a group session at whatever level, there has to be psychological safety. So what do you think are the major components of that?
Mhm. Well, first of all, our school has an added component of basic coaching tools. So we start with the safety at the beginning with an opening interview where we get to know our client, their needs, their physical state, their mental state, and we help them focus in an intention for the session. So the session has direction and purpose. So that's the first layer. And then the second layer is all the techniques that are built up in transformational breath really take the breath process very gently and very effectively. So the transformation is very it's happening in a way that is not going to overwhelm anybody. And if somebody goes deep into the process, we have the tools and the knowledge to bring them back. And I'll just use this as an example. Somebody shared with me last year some videos of a breathwork school that was actually from a person who was born in Mexico. They don't live in Mexico, but was born in Mexico. So they wanted to know my opinion because this was a Mexican breath worker, right? And very successful in social media. The videos are very dramatic. People are crying. They're going through all this intense catharsis. And then at the end of the catharsis, they feel like, oh, really, that was a lot that I let go of. And it's very dramatic on social media. But what I'm seeing in these videos looks physically extremely dangerous. Like they're pushing people on the ground, like against the ground and holding them and shaking them at the same time. So one person is holding the body while another person is shaking the body, and they're hyperventilating and they're crying and they're really limiting the body movements and pressing on the joints of the body without any awareness of the damage they can do to the body. So people come out of this and they've been crying for about an hour, half an hour. And because of the crying release, they feel really happy and like, oh, I let go of a lot. But then they come back and they're doing that over and over again. But people see this in social media, they feel drawn to it, and they think that's an effective way of working, right? So in our case, we understand that the catharsis is not the goal. The goal is the emotional integration. So we don't want people to come back and cry and cry. We want people to go through the emotional journey to get to the other side.
Yeah, and the key word for me is integration. So what would you, when asked what are the different phases in a breathing session, a transformational breath session, maybe you can talk a little bit about activation and integration and what it means.
Okay. So different, just activation and integration, right? Okay. So in a session, in transformational breath, we look at the breath and the restricted breathing patterns. And restricted breathing patterns are created by our life's emotional journey. When we experience emotions, we try to contain them with the breath, and these emotions literally get locked in our body, right? So there's parts of us that are either totally locked and restricted, or that are actively contracting the muscles during the breathing to contain that emotion. So it can go in either direction. During the session, our technique is a hands-on technique. So we use our hands on the body to apply pressure on those muscles and help them either expand or release the movement that they're doing that is unnecessary. What happens is that creates, first of all, the expansion of the physical aspect of the breath. If the breath is not restricted, when you take a breath with less effort, you'll have a fuller breath. And that's amazing by itself. The second part of this is the emotional integration. When we work with the body, these emotional memories come to the surface and we get to connect with them or experience them again. And some of them might be very clear, like you are actually witnessing that part of your life. And some of them might just be memories or sensations or thoughts without a clear memory. Whatever it is that comes up, sometimes people just have tears and they're crying. They don't know why. There's just a sadness coming up. It doesn't need to be a clear picture. We continue to do the breath, the connected breath that we do. And that connected breath is going to create the emotional integration without getting too technical about it, because that takes a long time. But for that integration to happen, we need to have the connected continuous breath. That's a breath without any pauses, right? So what we call activation is something that happens in a session where we say the breath is breathing you. This is an effortless, continuous breath. It's just like a little circle that is happening, and it feels like the breath is just flowing effortlessly and gently, but very effectively. And this is a very connected breath, and that very connected breath that happens during activation also promotes integration, but let's say at a more efficient pace, because a connected breath, the more connected it is, the higher the opportunity for integration that it offers.
And one of the things that I see a lot of at the end of a breathing session is this very palpable sense of connection with a higher power, or whatever you want to call it. And I was explaining to someone the other day, this is one of the reasons why we keep coming back, is because we all love that moment of sharing, which is often a sense accompanied by deep emotions of gratitude or of love. What kind of variations do you see across the world when you travel to different countries? Do you see the same thing in the integration phase in all sorts of different countries, or does it differ?
Yeah, I think integration happens the same. We're all human, regardless of where we were born, and that process unfolds beautifully. And integration happens several times through the session. We call them cycles of integration. So an emotion can come to the surface and it gets resolved. That's integration. A physical turbulence in the breath comes up in the session and it gets resolved. That's integration. And it's physical and emotional. But also we have what I like to call the quiet time, which is the last quarter of the session, which is we're not doing active facilitation. The music that we use is more gentle. We ask for the client to receive whatever they need for the perfect completion of the session. And if there's an emotion, still in that part, we try to bring it to completion without opening a new one. But for the most part, that part of the session is just very gentle, and people's breath just starts to expand by itself, and people have very sweet experiences, and they receive guidance in this part a lot. The work has been done, and this is the time to receive. And I think this is something also that might not be present in other breathwork schools, where it's all either active facilitation or just the sitting with the breath to receive. So we have that balance where we put the work, we create openings, we facilitate integration, and then we let go to receive whatever is needed for that completion. And it's very, very sweet. It's my favorite part of my self sessions. But also when I'm doing sessions for a client or a group, there's this witnessing that is so special. You're just there looking at this beautiful moment, looking at the person or the group, and you see it in the breath. I mean, intuitively, but you see it in the breath, what is happening, and it's powerful and yet very sweet.
Thank you so much, Jeannie, for giving your time and energy and all your enthusiasm and passion to this interview. So maybe I can ask you if you have any final words. I don't know who the audience is. I suppose well, I'm certainly going to share it with all our group in France, so who know, or some of whom know you already. But it will also go out on different social media. So you're also talking to a larger audience. What would you say in terms of final words?
Mhm. Oh, first of all, I want to thank you, Paul, for having this initiative. I think it's a great way for people to get to connect with the breath from different mindsets and perspectives, and to have a deeper understanding of it. So thank you so much. It's just, again, another beautiful thing happening in France with you, and I'm grateful for it. And I will say, for anybody who's watching this and made it all the way to the end, so first of all, congratulations for staying with us. And second, I really encourage you, wherever you are in your journey with the breath, to take it deeper, because the breath is a reflection of your inner wisdom, is the connection to your heart and to yourself. And the more you build a relationship with your breath and you bring it every day as a tool into your life, the more it gives you. And then the day that you really need it is just there available. Because sometimes we use the things when we need them, like I'm stressed or I'm scared. Now I'm going to do my breathing practice. And that's great to have. But if you have a solid, gentle relationship with your breath, is like you will even notice before you enter into those emotional states, is like, oh, I'm getting off balance, and you will bring yourself back a little bit to center. That doesn't mean you're not going to get emotional or angry or frustrated, but the level of escalation will be less, and the way you come back will be so much more efficient and more gentle. So, really bring it as a daily practice, whatever level you're in, and reach out to one of our facilitators to get to know more about transformational breath.